I'm Geoffrey Mark, and I want to talk to you about amateur radio for prepping and emergency communications. My call sign is KM6TVJ. So, what is amateur radio? Amateur radio is a license to use portions of the radio spectrum for voice or digital communications. It is a vital part of prepping and emergency services because communication is vital for any emergency plan. And amateur radio works when phones and the internet do not. So there are 3 levels of the amateur radio license. The first level is the minimum requirement. It's called technician. It takes about 10 to 15 hours of study on specific radio-related topics. You take an FCC test and you have to get 26 correct out of 35 multiple choice questions. Now these are out of a pool of about 400 possible questions. Once you have that license, you can make mostly local contacts, 5 to 50 miles. And importantly, you will learn how to use radios to coordinate groups and to find people who are on the air. The next level after technician is called general. It requires another 10 to 15 hours of study, give or take. It's a different FCC test, which you can take at the same time as the technician if you want. You also have to get 26 out of 35 multiple choice questions correct out of a possible pool of about 460. Many of those questions do overlap with the technician test. Holding the general license, having the proper radio, will allow you to communicate 300 to 3,000 miles or more. The top level of amateur radio licenses is called Amateur Extra. This test is much more difficult than the general test. I'd estimate another 30 hours of study to get this one. You have to get 37 correct out of 50 multiple choice questions, and the pool is about 620. Most of them are unique to the test. On paper, the Amateur Extra license does not look like it gives you that much extra, but it really does open up the world. Now the question is, why get a license at all if all you want is to have a radio for an emergency situation? Unlike a driver's license, you cannot practice communication on the air without a license. You need to practice and hone your radio comm skills so you're ready for an emergency. Having a license lets you do that all day and night without worrying about the feds, the FCC, showing up at your door. And they will. The process of getting that license gives you an organized education on the basics of radio, electronics, propagation, radio law, and radio techniques. So for example, this is the radio that I got when I first got my license. You can get them for about 30 bucks. It lets you talk for hours, 5 to 50 miles, give or take. But in order to talk with this radio, I need to learn what the right frequencies to use, how to dial somebody in, how to start and end a call without raising suspicion. So after about a week or two of using this radio with the little antenna that comes with it, looks about like that, but it's black, I realized that the signal was just not getting out. There was something substandard about that particular design of antenna, something I learned to get my license. So I did some research and I found this antenna. This one gets the signal out about 5 times better than that little, what we call rubber ducky antenna. And the one just screws onto the other, and I'm ready to go. So where do you start? There are books, there are YouTube videos, and there are practice tests online. I've put links below to all of these. At the very least, watch the YouTube videos. Use the online practice tests. When you're getting 85 to 90% correct, it's time to take the test. So, a question I get all the time. What is the difference between ham radio and amateur radio? There really is no difference. Ham is just slang for amateur radio. And despite what you might find out there, nobody knows for sure where the term ham comes from, but there are sure plenty of theories. So coming up in the next few episodes, I'm going to cover topics like some information that is actually on each test. I'm going to cover radios, what to look for different situations. I'm going to cover antennas, what you need for what purposes you're going for. I'm going to cover how does your environment help or hurt your chances of getting a signal out. And I will cover how to start and how to end a call. For example, this is Geoffrey Mark, KM6 TVJ 73.